Rentschler. I'm the math department chair for the building, and I also mainly teach 7th grade math, but I do have one 6th grade math class. This year, this is Mrs. McCracken. She teaches 6th grade math. She's covering for Mrs. Howard right now. Doing an excellent job for this first month until she comes back. Just going to in depth go over our digits program, the kind of ins and outs of it, some things you can look out for, some things that you can say, oh, well, I know how that works, if your student might tell you otherwise, because there's some little things that they can do that kind of, I don't want to say hide the homework, but kind of make it go to a different place. And so I'm going to just kind of show you those things and show you what to kind of expect as you're working through it. The website to go to our digits program is right up here on the board, and it's successnetplus.com. And that's the most efficient way to get there. We have been given 2 or 3 other web addresses, but this is the most efficient way to get there. And so if you ever see SuccessNet Plus, that's kind of the platform that the program is built on. But we call it our digits program. Once you log into the, or once you sign into the program, alright, this would be your student's username and password. So if your student's name was John Smith, alright, their username would be their first and last name, all lowercase is best, all one word, and then .decal. So every student, it's their first and last name, and then .decal. And then our 6th grade students, the password is all lowercase, decal, and then 10. So if they would forget or can't figure out why they're getting logged in, it's always an issue with kind of, is the username and password correct? So that it should be written in their planners. It's there, same with the successnetplus.com, should be written in their planners so that is available to them. But that way so you guys know in case somebody would forget. And then as you are logged in, this is kind of the overview screen. Mrs. Howard does have a little announcement up here, but this is usually just kind of the page that it just opens to. We more focus in these tabs that say practice, to do, and done. To do is going to be obviously the one that you and your students want to focus on because that is where the assignments are going to be. These are the ones that are not finished. They will be listed here, especially as they start accumulating and they don't get assignments done, you'll see a whole list. So this is just a practice student. This isn't actually a student working on anything. So these are the assignments that have been assigned so far on digits. And as you can see, there are no scores here. It's blank, and they all say start, which means they've never been opened. None of it has ever been completed. So if you would go to see, okay, 1-3 homework, I think that's what they're working on, all right, and they would open up that homework, it comes up in a pop-up. Well, you want to make sure that your pop-ups are not blocked on your computer at home because it will not open. And I know sometimes like in Google Chrome, it kind of inconspicuously at the top says pop-up blocked. There's not just something that pops up and says, hey, unblock this. You're just like, nothing's happening. Alright, so yeah, just a little rectangle that says that. Google Chrome is the best browser to use for this. It works the best. As long as it's updated, it should run fairly smoothly on there. I will say that sometimes with varying internet speeds, just people living in different areas, sometimes that does hinder this program from working. So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it just depends on the amount of internet traffic that your provider that you go through. Maybe they're having a lot of people on at one time. I know that has been an issue. But as you can see, it should just pop up right away as long as your pop-ups are not blocked and you have Adobe Flash on there as another plugin that it uses. And it usually will say you need to install this plugin if you don't have it. And as you can see, it just popped up. So this is a homework assignment. And you can see how many questions there are. It'll say their percent if they should have been working on it in school. We never just send them, okay, go home and do this entire online assignment because a lot of our kids don't have internet at home. So these are mostly done in class unless they're absent or maybe they just didn't get it done in class because they were struggling with it or maybe they were kind of messing around a little bit. But these are really in-class assignments because we know not everybody has this access at home. So if we were going to work on this problem, you can see that the question number that you're on has a little orange circle, and I'm just going to pick a question, and I'm going to check my answer. You can see that if you get it wrong, there's immediate feedback. It tells you, it gives you a helpful hint on maybe something that you could fix to get the right answer, which is what's great about having an online program versus a textbook, because you're not waiting until the next day to see, did I do this all right or did I do it all wrong? You're immediately knowing that, wow, I either get this or I don't. So if you would get it wrong again, you get 2 checks. It tells you what your answer was and it tells you what the correct answer is. And then you'll notice that it puts a little red X up there. Just because there's a red X does not mean that you can't do that problem again. You should, because there's a requirement of at least an 80% or higher in the 6th grade. So the idea behind that is you can keep doing it over and over and over again until you get it. So you can see down here it says similar exercise. It gives them a new problem to do. So if I was going to look at this problem and I'm like, okay, now I know I'm looking for some key words, and I'm going to check my answer, it's going to say, good job. And then you'll see it'll change to a little green check mark, and then you can see that they've got 1 out of the 15 points or 1 out of the 15 questions. And then it changes their percentage. So if you were going to go through, some of the questions are multiple choice, some of them are fill in the blank, so it's not all multiple choice. That way they're not always guessing for them all, because you can't really guess. Even though Mrs. McCracken guessed correctly on the last session that we just did. I asked her to type in a number and she got it right. So if you're going to look there, you're going to type that in and then check your answer, and it usually says good job or excellent. And then if you got it wrong, it will give you a little helpful hint. So let's say you get to this question and you don't have any idea how to do it. They've got their notes with them. That doesn't make any sense. They don't know how to do it. There are very useful tools right here on this actual page for this very specific question, so you don't have to go searching all over the place. And they're the Help Me Solve This and a View an Example. They're very, very similar. They give the same type of information. The only difference is that when I click Help Me Solve This, it starts talking about the problem, and then you actually have to interact with the example. So you have to start picking the right question. So if I'm just going to pick an answer and check it, you could get it right, or if you're going to type it in, just type in the times. Alright, it's going to say, remember that times corresponds to multiplication, so it's giving you a helpful hint even while you're doing the Help Me Solve This. So you're still interacting with it, and it takes you step by step so that you can get it right on your own. The catch with the Help Me Solve This is that it immediately marks the problem wrong and gives them another example to do, so that they're not using the example they already had to get it right again. So they get a brand new example, a whole other similar exercise, and then if they would get this answer correct, it would then change to a green check mark. And then you can also see as we're getting them right, our percentage is obviously increasing. Make sure that any time that your student is working on it at home, that they always, what's that? Yes?
Sometimes a video pops up.
Yeah, sometimes a video will pop up also, and I'll go over that in a second. Don't hit the X when you're done with the assignment, all right? Because sometimes it saves and sometimes it does not save. There is a save button on the bottom, all right? And you want to make sure that they always hit save. Now, sometimes they accidentally hit the X and it will. It'll save and they'll be good to go, but sometimes they won't. So I just wanted to make sure that save is always the button. They can always go back and try other problems again, but you'll always want to hit save. The view an example, very similar to the Help Me Solve This, except it's not interactive at all. It's just something for them to kind of read and look to see what the right answers are. And then sometimes there are videos that will actually, that they can play, and this one's they use Virtual Nerd, and it actually shows them how to do that problem in a video.
Figure out how to convert a phrase with one variable and one number.
Not all of the problems have videos though, only some of them. If they don't know what an algebraic expression is, there's a glossary. They can just type in algebraic expression, type it up here, and then it'll hear the definition, and all of that will just pop up. So, but they can go through, they could also pick them too if they know what it starts with, and then there gives a kind of the vocab, and it gives a proof example. Pretty helpful, especially if there's terms that they don't know. The math tools, 6th graders won't really use because 6th graders don't use calculators. All right, because we test adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing a lot. And that's kind of the main focus. So there should not be any calculators being used in school or at home. 7th and 8th grade is different. All right, sometimes calculators are used, sometimes they're not. But 6th grade is definitely a no calculator year, even though there is one available. All right, they're not supposed to be used in 6th grade. So let's say they've saved their assignment, and it says saving results. Their score will update whatever assignment they are. If it's in red, all right, it will mean that they haven't achieved the pass score yet. Now Mrs. McCracken said her pass scores haven't been changed to 80% yet because she's not as familiar with the program since she's subbing in for Mrs. Howard. But they'll turn green when they get above that pass score. And so eventually these will say pass with an 80%. And any time that they go above the pass score, even if they didn't try all the problems, they go to their done list, no matter what. Now, you can still try problems on your done list, you can still update problems that are on your done list, but sometimes they're hidden here, and if you look at a student's to-do list and there's nothing on there, but their scores are still low, what probably happened is they went through, and you can see once you've started the assignment, it says, I'm done. Well, you can click that, and it moves to their done list. Even though it's not done, it only is a 13%. But they can still try the assignment again, and they can still continue to do better on that assignment. So, and again, in 7th and 8th grade, we use the I'm done button sometimes, but in 6th grade, it's all about achieving that 80% and working through all of those things. It just depends what you are using the program for, because this is just one of our many tools that we use to help students learn the material.
I asked a question related to that really quickly.
Yes.
If they haven't achieved the passing and they try it again, does the updated score, is that what counts toward their grade then?
As
So
long-
like if they got up to 80.
When I check scores, a little dot shows up, tells me, score's updated, so I can go ahead and check it and add it and change the grade book.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was my question.
Yeah.
So if they had a score that wasn't passing, but then they tried again and passed, then it updates.
And I've also told them if they think a B minus, which is what 80% is, isn't personally where they want to be, they can make a personal pass goal of 85 or 86 or 99, whatever they want. They can keep going back in and improving until they hit that 100 mark.
Yeah, and a lot of our students do, they want to get 100. They don't want to just get an 80% because they want to get more of those questions right. So they can keep trying these again. And just because this failing grade is in the grade book, we'll actually send them to our support room for them to continue to complete it. And that's something we do at the end of the day. So we want them to keep getting that 80%. It's not like, well, it was due today and you only got a 13, you're done. No, we want you to keep doing that. So grades are updated. Yes?
So the 80% is passing, so officially it's going to be.
So that's the B minus, and
It's
it's a B
not
minus of passing
passing
grade. If you want your kiddo to
Correct.
have higher, let them know. You should probably be shooting for this.
Correct, yeah, you are still just getting a B minus on the assignment, correct. That's just the minimum level that we're accepting that it's done. So that way we know that they're getting that extra practice in and working past just happy with a D or a C. So yes, you're right. They still have to get in the 90s, 100% if they're looking for the A or A plus.
If they want A's, it's gotta be a personal best of 90%. A and 90% is an A bonus.
If you redo them over and over, you still gonna have them done on 6 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do as many, if there's, man, I got number 3 right, but I don't know why I got number 3 right, you can keep doing it over and over, and there's no limit to how many similar exercises you can do. These assignments are great for studying for tests, because I can go back and like, wow, I really struggled with 1-3, let's go practice some of these problems. And so that's what's great about this online, and it gives you different numbers and similar problem, but different numbers to work with, so you're not just working with the same numbers over and over again. So that's kind of where the assignments are located. Let's say the examples don't help you, maybe the notes aren't really helpful. If you go to this practice tab, it's actually the lessons. Practice to me sounds like it's going to be like their homework, but it's actually the lessons that are going to be taught, and it's done by unit. The numbers are all in order. If I go to topic 1, all right, I can click, okay, I'm struggling with lesson 1-3. That was the one I was just working on. Writing algebraic expressions.
Which they learned today.
So it pops up. Launches are just something we use in school. Sometimes the examples are where your focus would be at home if they're trying to work through these problems. And these examples are sometimes interactive.
No flipping.
Yeah.
I name my characters.
So usually, sometimes there's a little video, a little intro, and to click through the slides, it's all the way down here. So there are multiple examples for some of the parts. You just have to see down here how many pages are for this part. And these are pretty interactive. They're great for use in class, but they're great for use at home too, because they can just drag and drop these things in the right spot, and then sometimes they can check their solution depending how interactive it is, but they can always look to see if they got it right. They always have all the answers on the page. So while they're interacting with these lessons, these are the same lessons that they saw in class, they can also have some extra practice at home if they're still just not getting it. And then usually there's 3 parts to every lesson and multiple pages to each part. Oh, homework calendar. So we had a question last time. How do you know what's due when? We can do due dates on this program. It's kind of tricky because it's not as flexible as what we would like with some of our students that are absent. And maybe we want them, even though it's past due, we want them to continue working on it. The homework calendar, all right, this is on the DeKalb Middle School website. So if you would go to our website, it's right here on the left-hand side, homework calendar. You can go to your student's team, whether they're a Pride or a Legend, and choose their homework calendar. And it's not just math that's on there, and since I have my 6th grade classes on the Pride team, I can show you that. It has most of their core classes on here, so you can see what's actually going on in the classroom. Sometimes it might just say what the homework assignment is, because it is the homework calendar. But for instance, today in my math class, it's all the way down. If you can click on it, I have a target date, some classes call it a due date, and it says Digits book 1 for a close and check due Friday, August 29th. So it tells you when the due dates are. You would just have to click on each day to see what the assignment was that day to figure out when it was due. And the Digits book is actually goes along with our online program, and it's this. The pages are never ripped out. They should always all be in there at all times. They have a launch which goes along with that assignment. These are done in class for most of the time. These got it problems, again, go with the assignment that is on the practice tab, those lessons. These are like practice problems that they can do. And then sometimes the close and check is an assignment that'll go home for homework. This is something that gives them practice. It goes along with the lesson, but this is actually a physical thing that they can do. It's kind of like a worksheet that they can actually work on these problems. So the online assignments, like I said before, there is plenty of time to get them done in class, but we know sometimes students are absent or they just can't get it done. That's when those assignments need to be worked on at home if they can. And if they can't, we do have systems in place like our support room to help those students who don't have that access at home. But we try to give lots and lots of time for those online assignments, and we do have paper assignments that do go home sometimes for homework. But everything's usually up here on the homework calendar. And again, you can see other classes on here. Humanities is on here, health class, science. There are other things that you can always check to see how they're doing their other classes also. Alright. Are there any questions? I know that was a lot of information all at
And I went
one
over
time.
everything with the kids again on Wednesday. I made them write this stuff down in their planners. There are literally 2 kids out of the 127 I teach that didn't get it because they were absent that day. That's it. They should have the address, website, username, their passwords on that front page of their planner. And they should always have a homework assignment written down in the planner. Don't ever let them tell you, no, I have no homework in math. I write it on the board every day. It's a brand new color every day. I make them fill it out now. I don't start class until I see the planners filled out.
Yeah, and it's helpful because not only the homework calendar, but it's helpful always be checking their planner, especially in 6th grade. They're used a lot. A lot of that information should be in there. If there's not something that's written in their planner, that's when you might want to be asking some questions. Why not? Because there's always something that should be written down for almost all of their classes. Now I know some don't use it as much depending on what the class is. Yes?
Are books allowed to go home? Workbooks or books?
These Digits books?
Yes. Yes, the notebook binder, they keep all their notes in. Right now, Mrs. Howard is saying it has to stay in the room on the bookshelf, so any notes they get passed out, and they get a sheet of notes with every lesson that's taught. It stays in the binder. They take the notes home, they take it out, they gotta make sure it goes back in the binder when they come back to school the next day so it doesn't get lost.
And my class is a little bit different because I'm used to teaching 7th grade. I have them take their notes in the book. So those got it problems, but I don't. Most of
I
you
make
are probably,
them fill everything
yeah,
out.
most of you are probably don't have your students. But so if there's a little bit of a difference there, but they do have notes always of some kind, and notes can always be taken home in some form.
And her note sheet, all this stuff on here is pulled straight from the lesson. So if you go to the practice tab, everything on here was on the lesson from the practice tab.
So if they forget their notes.
If they forget those, they can
Correct.
reference it on the
And
practice tab.
those examples and those helping solve, those are awesome resources that can really help if they don't have the notes.
The only thing they don't have is occasionally if I happen to show them another way that may work to help them solve, that's not on there. Because I tell them, the strategy works for you, go with it. If it's getting you results, go with it. The right results.
How long is the same?
It's about the same pace. I think Mrs. Harris is maybe a lesson or two ahead of me, possibly.
Yeah, they're pretty similar. The programs are used. We try to be very consistent between grades. So like 6th grade is always very similar, 7th grade is always very similar, and same with 8th grade. And we consistently use the programs for tests and things like that, so they'll be using them for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But the teams, the whole 6th grade tries to use it the same way. But like when they move to 7th grade, it may not always be used exactly the same way, but it's always very similar.
No
But-
computer at home.
What's that?
There's no computer at home.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned that with the support room. So if there wasn't a computer at home, again, it's all about using the class time wisely. There's plenty of time to ask questions for help during class while they're working on them. And again, if there is no computer at home, they don't get it done. We do have that at the end of the day, what's called our support room, to give those students that time to work on it, that additional support system.
We always try to give them at least one day, 6th grade anyway, to go ahead and work on the digits in class so they have access to a computer. I have a kid with no computer at home, no access to a computer at all. He does it all at school. He has 100% of everything. He's plugging away at it.
Yeah, and they're usually of only about 13 to 15 questions on each assignment. And so if they get a whole 45-minute class period, that's quite a bit of time to work on these problems. And again, if they're struggling though, that's when they want to make sure that they're asking for some help. And then there is time during that, we'll always seek out those students too. And if not, we always have that support room, and they get extra support at the end of the day if they're still not getting those assignments done during our homework. Yes?
And on here, all the grades are on there for math. At first, it's like a couple weeks, we didn't see anything, we've seen grades for all the other classes.
Oh,
I didn't know if there was something
The
else I
math.
needed to go.
I really didn't have anything to put in the grade book right away. So I finally get it in there, and I'm keeping it updated on pretty much on a daily basis.
Yeah. So all of the math scores are always on PowerSchool. All grades are always on PowerSchool. So yeah, everything will be updated. So if there wasn't anything at the beginning, there might just not have been grades put in. But yeah, everything, and it's usually we always have up to 5 days to get something in there if it's not in there, but it's usually faster than that. That's just not nice. Any other questions? Working ahead is on the teacher's discretion. Working ahead is a lot easier on accelerated math. Did you guys come from the accelerated math room yet? No, so you'll hear more about that. Working ahead is a lot easier on math programs, so they actually can learn new concepts because it'll automatically generate the next assignment for them as we assign them. This is not as easy to do, but I know it has been used that way sometimes, but that's usually teacher discretion.
The only way to be able to do lessons on it.
Only if it pops up. For example, I taught today, tomorrow is the day we actually work on it, but I went ahead and put it up there in case any kid wanted to go ahead and get a head start on it. So at the very most, maybe you can work a day in it.
Yeah, but there should always be math to work on because of our accelerated math program, and it does generate those assignments. There's always something to work on, so they should never say, I have no math to do because I'm so far ahead. That should not ever happen, because we don't ever want to have our students just sitting there bored, not doing anything. We'll keep pushing them, on the accelerated math program, which corresponds with this. They're not two separate, math concepts that they're learning. It supplements this and kind of helps reinforce some of the concepts that we're teaching.
Is the digits
on the back map, do they do that in the same classroom, or do they go on to?
We do
Yes,
this in the
it's
board
all,
meetings,
yeah,
standard
it's just,
back.
it's like one of our resources. So we use digits and accelerated math, sometimes we use worksheets, like it's just one of our resources that we have.
So Alexis brings home a test and practice almost every night.
Because she's powering through those.
She is so overwhelmed, but she does it to herself, she gets it from her mother. So,
If your kiddo's getting overwhelmed on the ACT math, I've told them, how many times up here? 4 maybe? Set a timer, 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah,
When the timer goes off, finish the problem or just stop, put it away, you're good.
yeah, you
Hi,
did.
Alexis.
Yeah,
Especially sixth graders, they're used to, in elementary, if
Yeah.
the assignment got sent home, you do the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's why they
And I
are getting.
advise them on that. And if they feel they're behind on ACT math, or I've told them you need to work on it, more like 30 or 40 minutes. Like, if they want to spend hours on ACT math, I've told them, save that for the weekend. You need time during the week to eat and sleep and unwind a little bit.
Yeah, because some of those practices can be long,
Right.
and they're not meant to all be done in 1 week. But if they're behind, then that's another story.
It's
So,
a timer or a stop.
and you'll hear all about that in the next room. I don't want to give away your
Sorry.
presentation. No, you're okay. I don't want to give away. She don't have anything to give you. So, any other last minute questions before we move on? Yes. Yes. I'll talk to you about that. You can go ahead. Like what? We don't have we don't have a there isn't.
In fact, I can tell you exactly how far it is.
You know who she has?
So.
Does she have me?
Last name is what is it?
Yeah, Ms. Spearman. Ms. Spearman.
Yeah.
Is she legacy? Okay. We don't have a digits book, so she might
She's not
have
a
a couple for them
Yeah.
to look at, but we don't actually have a book. Now, we have a pre-algebra textbook as a resource in our